I'm Marky Billson. I'm the world's foremost authority on women playing football. And I'm going to tell you what I think of Sarah Fuller. Yes, I am the world's foremost authority on women playing football because I don't think anybody has ever written more about it than me. About 5 years ago, when April Goss was about to kick her extra point against Delaware State for Kent State, I was the one who did a detailed feature in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Goss, her journey from being a high school football kicker in Beaver County, PA, to joining the Golden Flashes, her knowledge of football, kicking the winning field goal in the spring football inter-squad game for Kent State. Goss was a football player. Katie Ardino was as well. She kicked on her high school team. She had quite an ordeal, first to Colorado, and then became the first player in college football history, major college football history, to kick an extra point it was for the New Mexico Lobos. Now, there have been some small college field goal kickers who happen to be women. Also, I'll even go this far. When Lisa Horton threw her touchdown pass for the Pittsburgh Colts semi-pro football team, a team of men against other men, the Michigan Renegades, if you will, to give the Colts a 48-0 lead in their 48-0 victory against the Renegades. That was back in 2004. Guess who was the only member of the media at East Allegheny High School that day to witness it and then write about it for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette? Oh, yeah, that was me. I can tell you about Pat Parlinkus holding in 1969 for the Orlando Panthers of the Continental Football League. But what the Continental Football League was and who Pat Parlinkus was, that's another topic for another video. I'll even go so far to tell you when Stephanie Weimer was trying out at Penn State, I was able to talk to her. I couldn't get an article out of it because it didn't actually make the team, but I remember talking to her about it. I was actually helped out by the Penn State SID department. They did a rare thing. I was actually allowed to call her up in her dorm room, had a real pleasant chat. As it turned out, my editor, Terry Shields' daughter, and Stephanie Weimer were friends. Weimer was a very legitimate field goal kicker for Sarah Catholic, which is a small high school in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, obviously with a Catholic enrollment. And if memory serves, remember I'm going off memory, but if memory serves, she was 6 of 7 kicking field goals. So, I mean, she was a legitimate kicker. Really the only reason she wasn't on Penn State's team, and Joe Paterno told her, why don't you go out and train with the women's soccer team to get some leg strength? They didn't think she had the range, which has been a criticism of Fuller, I'll give you that. But nevertheless, here, I will tell you this. Derek Mason would have loved to have had a female in the Vanderbilt student body that had kicked field goals on her high school football team for his team. He would have loved it. And not just because she was a woman, it was because he needed to kick her. And he didn't have many players. And he needed to do something positive for a team that is probably going to finish with Vanderbilt's first ever winless record. More on that in a second. Vanderbilt has been having trouble having enough members to field a team. Against Tennessee, they had 49 scholarship players. They had 18 on defense. And I know Clay Travis put up a legitimate argument when he asked, hey, Derek Mason, why don't you just have the punter, kick extra points and kick off for you and all that? And he does have a legitimate point, but here's something to ponder. This isn't pro football where you only have, a 53-man roster plus, whatever the taxi squad is and the practice squad and all this. This is college football where you're supposed to have a very deep roster. And what if the punter had gotten hurt? What if he kicks off and then gets injured trying to make a tackle? You have no punter. You're down to just, if you don't have Sarah Fuller on the team, you got nobody. And that's kind of a risk. And that kind of helps explain why against Missouri, in a game Vanderbilt was getting beat at. 41-0, never even approached a score. It's like, you know what? Let's not risk injury here. We can't afford the loss of numbers. We can't afford having them run it all the way back against us. Just squib it, Sarah. You know how to do that? Just squib it. Yeah, you've been practicing? Just squib it. and we'll take care of the rest. So that's what they did. So that's my argument to Clay Travis's, why didn't they just use the punter? A legitimate question, but one that has an obvious answer. A lot of the criticisms of Sarah Fuller kicking for Vanderbilt are just plain false. She was the SEC Player of the Week. There is no such thing as an SEC Player of the Week. She was, however, co-SEC Special Teams Player of the Week for Week 10. And while I will agree that I wasn't quite as impressed with her squib kick as I was with Florida's Kadarius Toney returning a punt 50 yards to the house against Kentucky, remember, a lot of this Player of the Week is who you nominate. And you see, you see Weimer right there, or Weimer, listen to me, I think I'm remembering the Penn State player. You see Fuller, and you're thinking, you know what, we really ought to recognize this without taking away from Tori's accomplishments. Other criticisms of Fuller just seem to be woman bashing. I've heard her extra points against Tennessee criticized because of style points. They weren't high enough. And when have you ever heard a kicker criticized because the extra point was successful, but only a low liner? Still counts as one. The squib kickoff, well, anybody can do that. Of course, we just went through why it was probably a squib and all that. And to criticize Fuller for a coaching decision, hey, squib the kick, Sarah. That doesn't hold up. And, there is the comment, hey, this is just a publicity stunt. Okay. I will say that, Derek Mason, before he was fired for an 0-8 record, really needed a kicker, and he's got to find one from the student body, and he's trying to figure out and he said, I'm friends with the women's soccer coach, and I said, hey, do you got anybody? And remember, Tony Menio, who was the goalkeeper for the 1994 United States World Cup soccer team, men, tried out for the New York Jets as a punter. So, you go out, I could use somebody. You think you got anybody who could kick an extra point for me? What about my goalie? Is that so bad, really? If there's any team that needs a publicity stunt, if there's any team that needs a positive vibe, it's the 0-9 Vanderbilt Commodores, the very worst SEC team I've ever seen, even worse than 1999 South Carolina, which also went winless, but they did play Vanderbilt to within a point, and they had a lot of freshmen that were basically learning the basics of football. Lou Holtz, his first year as head coach of the Gamecocks, and I'll tell you what he was trying to do. He was trying to rebuild the Gamecocks his way, and a lot of times, he had them running the most basic plays at times, a straight T for crying out loud. And in 1999, it really wasn't about South Carolina trying to win football games. It was about South Carolina trying to learn football the Lou Holtz way. And much like the 1966 Cubs with Leo DeRocher, if I got to lose all the time to rebuild this team my way, I'm going to do it. Same thing Lou Holtz did in 1999 with the Gamecocks, looking back at winless teams. Most winless teams in SEC history have actually tied a game here or there, but there were no ties by 1999, and of course there are no ties now. So, talking about winless teams. But I'm going to tell you, the South Carolina Gamecocks of 99, they were better. At least they had numbers. They were better than the Commodores are this year. So if any team needs a positive vibe from a publicity stunt, it's Vanderbilt. So, Vandy had, as I said, 49 scholarship players suit up against Tennessee. That means that whoever coaches Vanderbilt next season has plenty of opportunity to build the Johnny Majors way. What am I talking about? Way back in 1973, when Johnny Majors was about to coach the Pitt Panthers for the first time, he inherited a 1-10 team that really was bad. But Pitt, and remember, there weren't the scholarship limitations back then. You sort of had an agreement that you were only going to sign so many players. Well, Majors was coming from the Big 8, where you were allowed 45 scholarships. At the time, Pitt was only giving out 25. There was this Eastern agreement within Penn State and Syracuse and schools like that. And you know what? It meant that teams like Syracuse and Penn State and Pitt were not thought of very highly by the rest of the country. And when Penn State would play Tennessee, who had 35 scholarships, they would get beat bad. So if those years when Penn State cried, we weren't ranked number 1 after finishing undefeated, and we didn't win the Lambert Trophy in 71, Dartmouth did. It's because the scholarships just weren't there. Majors went to Pitt. He had Wesley Posar was the chancellor, and they basically came up with a strategy. You know what? Screw this. We're going to sign who we can. He found Tony Dorsett in his first recruiting class, told him, you're going to play as a freshman. Penn State couldn't do that. They had John Capoletta at the time. He won the Heisman Trophy in 73. So that's how Pitt went from 1-10 to national champion in just 4 years. That's what Vanderbilt can do. You got scholarship limitations, but if there are only 49 players suiting up, and I know some of that's the virus, some of that, but there aren't that many players right now. You've got about as many scholarships to give as any team in college football is going to have. And you're going to be offering starting positions to freshmen. The new coach at Vanderbilt can very much capitalize on this. All they've got to do is be good students, which isn't that hard to find. Look at Stanford. Look at Northwestern. Hey, they're playing for the Big Ten title, right? And you can tell such a player, hey, you come to Vanderbilt, you'll be starting right away. You could actually go to the NFL after 3 years of starting, earn millions more with an extra year of pro football. That's a very, very compelling argument for the modern blue chip prospect. You're going to make millions more here because you'll play right away, and you can therefore leave after your junior year. It's a novel. It would be brand new at Vanderbilt to recruit that way, but it can be done. So remember that, though. Sarah Fuller is a flashing red light to those potential recruits. And not only will we give you a place to play as a freshman, but we're Vanderbilt. And look at Sarah Fuller. It doesn't matter what your race, color, creed, sexual orientation, or in fact your sex is. If you can play, we'll play you. We are the team with the chick kicker. That's a powerful message in today's very racial conscious society to a black quarterback, or let's say a white cornerback. That's an argument that, well, you really do mean that I can play, when other schools may give you what you feel to be lip service. Now, I do have criticisms of the way that the Sarah Fuller situation has been covered. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not real big on play like a girl in the back of a helmet, but whatever. I mean, I can live with that. That's not a big deal. I will say that Fuller really is a soccer player, and I do think that she's getting a lot of credit as the first Power 5 kicker that really the pioneers of females kicking college football should really still receive. I don't really think it's that big of a deal that she's kicking for Vanderbilt and Katie Urdina kicked for Colorado, didn't score there, and then New Mexico where she did score, or April Goss kicked for Kent State. I will say that Goss, that Urdina, and the aforementioned Weimer, they all were football players. They kicked in high school. They were legitimate members of the team. April Goss really worked in the weight room. Trust me on this. I mean, there are all sorts of stories coming out of Kent State at the time about the girl who wants to be a part of the team and is earning her keep in the weight room. And I even wrote about it that, the football team, they really did like April Goss, and there was this feeling of protection to her. And, if any guy wants to date you, April, they're going to have to go through us to make sure that their intentions are proper and all that. So I do think that those kickers that preceded Fuller do deserve more than just lip service. They should be looked at as the true pioneers, not just someone coming over from the soccer team because it's the SEC, because it's the Power 5. Kent State, New Mexico, maybe not great programs, but they are D1. They are FBS, excuse me. So there you are. In fact, Erdina took her career to minor league football, to an indoor league. She played professionally. So, I do think that there are some criticisms you might be able to make, but it's a flip side of a coin on, supposedly this very critical pep talk that she gave her new teammates against Missouri. I mean, I do understand that there's a little bit, who is this person to come in and in her first game start chewing out the team and all that? But let me tell you something. If there's ever a team that could use some harsh constructive criticism from a newcomer, it's the Vanderbilt Commodores. Let's face that fact. I do think that the media coverage, well, I do think a lot of it I can't believe. I don't believe that there were Vanderbilt players crying tears of joy on the sideline after the squib kick. No, I don't believe that. I mean, you have to believe that, here was Fuller chewing them out, and then they were crying tears of joy because of a squib kick, because she came in off the team to a team depleted by, the virus and all that. I don't buy that. And I also don't buy, it doesn't add up that they were crying tears of joy during the Missouri game, but then so many players quit in protest of a woman playing for whatever reason, or Fuller, not Phil Fulmer, obviously, but Fuller on the team. They quit in protest that they couldn't field enough players against Georgia. I don't believe that either. That's very conspiratorial. That's, no. I don't believe that. I do believe that it was a pandemic situation that the game got canceled. And it's a pandemic situation, really, that Fuller's on the team to begin with. That does need to be said. But I actually have more criticisms of the way Vanderbilt sports have been covered, especially right here in the Tri-Cities. And I'm going to get to that in my next video. So be sure to look for that. I ask that if you're watching on YouTube, you like the YouTube channel, Marky Billson, and you'll get the most honest, hard-hitting commentary on sports that, here we're talking Tennessee sports, which is Vanderbilt, that you will find. A lot of stuff on the Bucks, a lot of stuff on the Vols. Might be scooping up for some Chattanooga content here very shortly. So I ask that you pay attention to that. Hit the bell, like me on YouTube, follow me on Medium, that sort of thing. But for now, the point to take with you is, you know what? There is a lot of girl bashing with Sarah Fuller. I'd like you to know about April Goss. I'd like you to know about Katie Erdina first before Fuller. But, Vandy needs something. And being able to prove that we will be accepting to you if you come here when you got a lot of scholarships to give, a new coach, and it seems like they're about ready to finally spend some money there. Folks, that could be very big with Vanderbilt football. And going outside the box for a kicker might be where it all started. I'm Marky Billson.